the oldest church in West Africa, built in Benin City in 1516, after India-Benin War on Akpakpava Road. This temple was rebuilt in 1946 by Akenzo II, Oba of Benin, after it was destroyed during Benin invasion of 1897, on the then 450-year-old site of the Roman Catholic cathedral built by the Portuguese during the reign of Oba Esigie. When the Benin-India War ended about the year 1516, the Europeans in Benin were greatly relieved. This was because they were thereby able to turn their energies to what really was of interest to them and the kingdom: the conversion of the people to Christianity, instead of their being obliged to help out in Oba Esigie's tedious series of warfare since he succeeded Ozoliwa, his father, to the throne. The letter written in Benin City by Duarte Pires to Dom Manuel, the King of Portugal, on the October 20, 1516, and reproduced in J. U. Vega Hapa's Short History of Benin, page 28, paints a vivid picture of the Benin city of Oba Esigie soon after the India War ended. The letter said that peace had returned to the kingdom. The Europeans, even though priests of God, had been away with Oba Esigie to India for a whole year, and had helped Benin to defeat the Ingalas. The preaching of the gospel, the great mystery, and the conversion of the Benin people to Christianity, which had been shelved because of the total commitment of the kingdom to the war effort, was now possible, now that the war was over. The effort to convert the pagan kingdom to Christianity had begun in earnest. Already Oba Esigie had built a church, presumably the cathedral, along Akpakpava Road. Esigie had ordered those closest to him, the Crown Prince Orhagbua, and 2 important palace chiefs, to become Christians. The spark of literacy, the magic of being able to read and write, had been introduced into Benin, amongst the royals and noblemen, and these persons had proved proficient in it. This aspect of the Portuguese effort at Christianizing the kingdom was presumably later institutionalized in the schools created at Obalaka and Elrie, and presumably also at Hoogbager. Duarte Pires' letter, a veritable Rosetta Stone, a key in the understanding of the early years of Portugal in Benin, also explains very satisfactorily why, in spite of the unchallengeable military advantage which Esigie possessed at that time over all the other kingdoms and peoples of this portion of West Africa, the India War proved to be the last major campaign of the reign of this Oba. The energies of the rulership were now directed inwards, towards changing the society, and coping with the internal opposition engendered by these changes. The European power which sponsored these changes was happy that there would be no more external distractions which might hamper the successful unraveling of the great mystery too, and its acceptance by the generality of the Benin people, as had already O-file, showing the Hugwak Pata hairdo. In this instance, the Hugwak Pata been done with regard to the palace. For the greater portion of the 34 years which remained to him after that war, Esigie devoted his energies to building churches in town and in the suburbs. The sites of the 4 town churches are known, 3 of them very well, the 4th not so well known. This 4th is the Aruosa Nugbagar, located at number 3 Indahosa Street, Hoogbagar Quarters. The biggest of the 4 churches built in town and the headquarters of the Benin Christian Mission was the cathedral on Akpakpaba Road. Recent evidence has confirmed that the site was once the seat of a bishop of the Roman Catholic Church. On page 5 of the book, The Church of Benin City, published in 1997 by the Catholic Archdiocese of Benin, it is written that the British colonizers, on the conquest of Benin in 1897, discovered on arrival in Benin City that the Portuguese had in fact built a church in the city which was probably the seat of a bishop, as evidenced by the discovery of an episcopal cross. The discovery of the episcopal cross in Benin in the early years of the 20th century, an artifact which could only be found in association with the presence of an officer of the church not below the rank of a bishop, is good evidence of the cathedral status of the church built in Akpakpaba by Oba Esigie. There is yet another available piece of evidence which corroborates the trustworthiness of this chance finding. The evidence is in the famous Festac mask, the carved ivory hip pendant of the face of a noble personage in the Benin world of Oba Esigie. The Hugwakpata chiefly hair do of this well-known artifact consists of a row of the repetitively carved head of a European Roman Catholic bishop, 11 replications of the head, all told. The long hair and the flowing beard identify the head as that of a European. The skull cap, the zuccato, on his head identifies him as a prince of the church, that is a bishop, an archbishop, a cardinal, or the Pope himself. Representation. Look at the Hugwakpata hair, do properly, and you would see the carver's representation of the head of the Roman Catholic bishop. The repetitively carved head which makes up the Hugwakpata hair do of the Festac mask was the carver's representation of the head of the Roman Catholic bishop of the Benin city of Oba Esigie. If it was argued that the church in the Benin city of Oba Esigie could not have been important enough to accommodate the office of a bishop, then the least that could be suggested would be that the Portuguese Roman Catholic bishop of the bishopric of the Nigerian offshore island of Sao Tome paid a pastoral visit to the Benin church, and the Benin artist adopted the august visitor as his subject for the Hugwakpata adornment of the representation of the face of a Benin royal personage, which he was carving in ivory. The artist who created this work of art was very probably an Omada, a sword-bearer, in the royal palace, rather than an ivory carver in Benin Street. It could only have been a middle-aged Omada, living the monastic life of palace service, with all his physical needs met, and with no worldly responsibilities as for a wife and children, who could have put in so much love, time, attention, artistic clarity and beauty, into a length of elephant tusk. The ivory mask has been identified as depicting the face of Idia, the Queen Mother of Oba Esigie. The Queen Mother, Queen Idia, was the only female in the kingdom who as of right would sport an Hugwakpata chiefly hair do. This is because in status the Inyoba, Queen Mother, is a member of the prestigious Ege Nor group of chiefs whose leader is the Inyarser. She occupies the 5th position in the hierarchy of the group, after the Osuma, and before the Haisarma. The Akpakpaba Cathedral built by Oba Esigie was of a large size. Its frontage was on Akpakpaba Road, and the rear on Ihanda Street. Cathedral and castle builders from Portugal probably constructed the edifice, but the more likely scenario was that the resident priests themselves did the supervising, with the artisan guilds of the city, put at their disposal by Esigie, doing most of the constructing. Akbakpava Road, on which the cathedral stood, was said to have been constructed by Oba El-Wahid I, Esigie's grandfather. But it was the Portuguese in Benin who gave the road the name by which it is now known. It is conjectured that these Europeans called the thoroughfare Papa Via Road. The Roman Catholic Archbishop of the Metropolitan See of Benin, His Grace Patrick Ebisilekpu, explained the origin of the name Akbakpava and the cathedral. The story of the construction of the Benin City Cathedral 500 years ago was told, and the word Papa Via mentioned in association with the street on which the new cathedral stood. In a flash the Archbishop exclaimed quietly in Latin, Papa Via, the Pope's Way, or the Pope Road. It needed the mind of a Roman Catholic priest to see easily into the workings of the minds of those Roman Catholic priests who labored in the Benin city of 500 years ago. The most natural thing for them to do at the completion of their cathedral was for triumphant priests to name the improved road on which the edifice stood after the head of the church, the Pope, under whose authority, sponsorship and encouragement they were laboring in Benin. For 5 centuries, this Benin City Road has borne this Latin name, in celebration of the office of the Supreme Pontiff, the head of the Roman Catholic Church worldwide. Akbakpava is a corrupt name of Papa Via. For 2 centuries the Christian Church struggled to take root and survive in the soil of Benin. But by the year 1713, Rome had accepted that the Benin conversion effort was a failed enterprise, and priests stopped coming to Benin. The Benin Church lapsed into traditional religion, which is the native religion of the land. The native priest of the Akbakpava Road Cathedral retained his pre-eminent position as the premier Ohensa of Benin land, and his Arosa as the premier shrine where the Lord God Almighty was worshipped in the kingdom and the empire. Here, as in all others of the shrines dedicated to him, the Almighty was propitiated with chalk, cowries, pods of pumpkin and strips of white and red linen. The Ohensa, the successor of the Roman Catholic bishop of the 16th century, would come before the Oba in the palace, holding his staff of office, which represented the episcopal cross of the Catholic bishops of the Benin of Oba Esigie. He blessed the Oba just before the Oba came out to meet the populace at the Hugaos Olua, the hall where public audiences were held in the palace. During this brief encounter between the Oba and his premier Ohensa the Amada, the Oba's sword-bearer would reverse the Arda, the sword of state, so that the tip of the scepter pointed downwards, in submission to, and in acknowledgement of, the omnipotence of the Lord God Almighty. The Arda resumed its upright position when the priest of God concluded his ministrations to his monarch. The priesthood of the Aruosa and Akbakpava became, like all the other Ohensa titles of the land, hereditary. The last of the line of this ancient family was Ohensa Asarber, who was the keeper of the shrine during the early decades of the 20th century. Today is called Holy Aruosa and is regarded as Oba's church because that is the church Oba of Benin attends. Source: The Benin City Pilgrimage Stations, written by Esigie. Edited and produced by Esigie. Thanks for watching.